Hi, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of In Media, an MAB podcast. This show is going to be a deep dive into the voices who shape the media that we trust, the influence they hold, and the responsibility that they carry. I'm Casey Jones, and I am honored today to be joined by our very first guest, Zoe Clark.
The honor is mine, Casey Jones. I can't believe I get to be the first guest.
I mean, this is wonderful. Zoe, really, I mean, you should look at the list on my paper right here of the credentials and the accolades. You're Associate GM at Michigan Public, the political director. You're a Peabody Award winner. There's so much to you and Zoe Clark and what you bring to broadcasting and to media.
Oh my.
And
can I just take you around wherever I go, Casey? This is really great for the ego, apparently.
Well, really, I mean, seriously, Zoe, people know your credentials. They know your background. They know the depth that you bring into every room you enter. But I have to imagine that there was a first moment. Can you tell me the first moment you remember thinking, yeah, this is the work I want to do?
Oh. My goodness. Well, I mean, I can give you the kind of overall moments, which was I didn't want to work in journalism. That was not my plan. I wanted to work in political campaigns. So I wanted to be a press secretary in political campaigns. And my senior year at the University of Michigan, I decided that I would do an internship over the summer at Michigan, then radio. Now it's Michigan Public, the NPR station in Ann Arbor where I lived. And I was going to spend the summer learning how the big bad media operate, right? So that when I became a press secretary, I would know how to, I don't know what I thought. I was, I was 21, 22, I had some idea. And within 2 weeks, Casey Jones, 2 weeks of being at the station, I was hooked. And my whole life's future of how you think it's going to be just went out the window.
Why did it hook you so quickly?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, so many things. One is I had I'm going to age myself, but I grew up watching The West Wing, and I mean not on streaming, legit, on, television.
Tune in TV.
With commercials, and you had to be there at a certain time to watch it. I grew up watching West Wing, and C.J. Craig is the press secretary. That's the Allison Janney character, but she's actually based on Dee Dee Myers. And Dee Dee Myers is the first female press secretary ever in the history of the United States. And she was Bill Clinton's press secretary. And that's who then C.J. Craig. So I wanted to be C.J. Craig. I wanted to be a press secretary. And one of the things about West Wing, if you've watched it, Aaron Sorkin, everybody's amazing. And the characters are all good. And government works. It's a television show. And I realized very quickly after being on the media side, not everything is great, is it? And I started hearing stories about some of those politicians that I had looked up to or thought maybe I even wanted to work with. So, and then there was just breaking news, and there would be breaking news. And this also was in the day where you would have copy on paper. And I remember taking the paper and throwing my high heels off and running down to the studio with the on-air light and handing the copy. And it was just the movie broadcast news suddenly took precedent over the West Wing.
Interesting. So it was the drama to it, right? The adrenaline that came.
Yes,
with
not so much
news.
The drama, but the adrenaline and this idea too that I could pick up the phone, because it was literally picking up the phone, and just call someone and ask a question. And as a member of the press, right? Oh, I'm curious about this. I'd like to learn more about this. I would like to have this person on this show for 10 minutes and then get to write the questions. It was like having your own personal, just encyclopedias and knowledge. And it was just so invigorating. So yeah, I would say less drama and more just that adrenaline and the ability that I love to learn. I don't do great standing still. Stasis is not for me. So the ability to just learn and keep trying new things is just huge.
And probably to wear the weight and responsibility of the Michigan Public Badge, that came well before you, and now you're a part of it, is probably exciting. And the reason that folks will pick up the phone and give you an answer. But when did you realize that it was, as much as it was the Michigan Public brand, when did you realize that, oh my goodness, my voice can make change?
Oh, God, I feel like I'm like on the therapist's couch now or something.
Here, lay back.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, I'm like, I'll write you a check after. Next year, I think it is, or in 2 years, I will have spent half my life at the station. The station is part of who I am. I have had my most formative years, some of the most dramatic things that have happened to me just as a human and a person have been entwined into the station. I guess if I'm being very honest, and again, now I'm like, this is super psychological. Like I don't always feel completely separated. But when was the first time? It was probably the first time I got to interview a governor, right? Like now I've interviewed governors, that's normal, but I was still a just total political junkie at heart. And I remember I had booked an interview with Jennifer Granholm, the governor at the point, and our morning edition host was supposed to do it, and she got sick. And my boss, who I would love to talk about because she is the person my former boss, who allowed me to be who I am today. I really believe that. Said, "Oh, well, Clark, you just fill in." And I was like, "But governor, what do I say?" So I think maybe something like that was one of the first moments where I felt like, oh, I can do this as a host, because before I had always just been the producer in the background.
What did that interview teach you?
That Jennifer Granholm thought my name was Emily. Luckily, she said it before the interview. Or like Anna. It was something. And I was like, I'm sorry, Governor, this is Zoe. What did it teach me? It actually taught me that I love butterflies in my stomach.
Yeah.
Usually, like when you're little and you have to do a presentation in front of like a classroom on something, like you've got those butterflies in your stomach and it's terrible. Something changed for me there where having butterflies in my stomach meant life. It meant trying new things. It meant, okay, this is scary, but man, you get to be alive and try something new. The butterflies mean a new experience.
Okay, but now, as you already said, next year you'll have spent more than half of your life at Michigan Public.
Yeah. I started when I was 4, by the way.
Well, of course. How do you replicate that feeling still, or are you able to replicate that feeling still? Because it can go away, the rush of interviewing a governor when you've done it 100 times.
Yeah, there are still times that it happens, but it's usually surprising. Right? Like I'll think like, oh, okay, I'm going to go do this awesome conversation with Casey. And then maybe it happens and it's like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what's going on there. I'll say it's fewer and farther in between. But man, is it delightful when it happens.
Okay. So you're Michigan native, grew up in Ann Arbor.
Born and raised in Ann Arbor, left a couple times, but man, that 36 square miles surrounded by reality just keeps pulling me back in.
How has your upbringing shaped, who Zoe Clark is to the Michigan communities that listen?
Well, I'm incredibly close with my family, and so that was part of the reason that I've stayed. I'll just be very honest, like, friends who would be like, I got to move to California. I got to move away I got to get away from these folks. I never had that, which just feels like a very lucky thing in my life to have. But it also means things are very familiar, right? I mean, Ann Arbor's changed, but I feel very comfortable there. It's my home. So it's certainly shaped who I become. I went to the hippy dippy school. I went to community high school, which was the alternative high school. And that also, there's a few things in my life I will say that made me who I am today. Tamar Charney, my former boss, who I was talking about before, and community high school was a high school, again, like I said, that was alternative. And they allowed students to be themselves, and they allowed students to go take classes at the University of Michigan, right, just a couple blocks away, or to do these things called CRs, where you could find someone really cool in the community and go try working, or my junior year of high school went to boarding school in England. So it was something that happened at a very formative time. And I'm really grateful that I got that experience.
Does that show up in how you report?
Does Ann Arbor?
Yeah, just the whole, the experience overseas, the family ties.
The experience overseas. I was 17. I was 16, turned 17 when I was there. And, the fact is we are the United States, when you were born and raised here, we are U.S. centric. I mean, and like, I get it. We're the largest economy. It's the U.S. But living overseas taught me, again, at such a young age, like there is a whole world out there that we just, as the United States, I think, this is again, just my own personal view, don't do enough teaching that to a younger generation. And so going overseas and waking up and over breakfast, reading newspapers from various countries and things like that, it was eye-opening and it was fascinating. And then to get to learn different political systems in different countries too, again, was just so cool. So another thing that just was really meaningful.
All right. You got a lot of people, you're on billboards. You got a lot of people that think they know you just because they see on the billboards.
So I'm in radio for a reason.
But a lot of people probably come up to you at the store, especially if, you've been in that 36,000 square mile radius for so long. What's something that people who listen to you routinely get wrong about you?
Oh, well, I will tell you one funny story. This was years ago, but a woman came up to me, introduced herself, and then she said, it's so funny because you don't look like Sarah Palin. And I didn't get it at first, and then I realized what she was saying is like, look, I'm a Midwesterner. Sarah Palin, of course, isn't. She's Alaskan, but like I have a nasally Midwestern voice, and so I don't always think of myself as having this like, ooh, great radio voice. Like, nope. So that was one where it was just sort of like, ooh, ouch, tell me how you really feel. But what is something that people don't know about me? That I don't look like Sarah Palin. I think usually, what usually happens, Casey, particularly right now, is people are just so kind. Things aren't easy right now for journalists. And what I've noticed actually is I think we're we keep saying that this like country that we've never been more separated, that we live in two different worlds. I think some of that is true, but I do feel like we live in two different worlds though. I feel like we live in the world that's like real, and you're out at the grocery store and you bump into someone and you say, I'm sorry, or you let someone driving, you let them in. And then there's the online world, which is vitriolic, and you call people names you would never call people names. And so, I'll get really angry, mean emails. And then I respond as a person, and people are always like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that. So one of the things that I notice is like face to face and meeting, people in real life, I think it's so important these days. And so kindness, like one of the things I notice is listeners are just so kind and so warm, and usually want like some amount of political gossip. They're like, but tell me what Whitmer's really like, or tell me what, or something like that.
Share, please do.
She's the governor.
Yeah, right. Certainly not what you would think someone would say is that you notice how kind people are, especially with, what we hear or see sometimes.
This is what I mean. I really believe in my heart of hearts, Casey, that people don't wake up in the morning going, you know what? I want to be angry today. You know what? I want to wake up and I want to just yell at someone for pulling into a parking space before me. I think so much of this is top down right now about how we treat each other, and what it means to interact as humans and community and to build community. And so what I noticed, we hold these things called Issues and Ale, where people come out and they have a beer or two and we talk politics. And normally you'd think like drinking beer and talking politics, what could go wrong? But actually it's joyful, and people are in these rooms together and they're listening to each other, and they're not necessarily agreeing, but they're going like, look, I hear what you say, I'll disagree. We've had some Issues in Ale where we've had bipartisan panels. So like 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. We had one in January of 2023, 2 lawmakers, one from the Senate, 2 from the Senate, but 1 Democrat, 1 Republican. They didn't know each other. They met, at this event, and now they introduced bipartisan legislation together. Like, that's not my job to, have them like that. I stay away from that. But like, the fact of knowing that some amount of civility came from some of the events and the things that we put on, and modeling good listening, and the idea that, like, I may not disagree with you, but that doesn't mean I have to be disagreeable. I just think we have to do more of that.
You have a unique way of taking very complex political issues and watering them down so that we can all take a drink of it. I mean, it's just politics, issues in ale, the way that you talk about it. Was that an intentional, deliberate? Where did that idea come from? How did that originate?
Yeah. Well, I have to give credit to my life and work partner, Rick Pluta. He is my co-host of It's Just Politics, and also my co-host in life. He is my husband as well. And he really wanted to do a show that sort of pulled back the curtain. Right? There's a lot of shows where it's sort of like, and then here's what's happening next. And it's, and the idea was, as he would always say, let's talk about Lansing the way people in Lansing talk about Lansing. Let's not make it some big secret thing. Like, let's pull back the curtain, but let's also talk like how, policymakers and lawmakers are talking about the issues. And that's very much been our North Star through all of this.
People don't like to take work home, but I just imagine like the two of you at the dinner table cracking a beer and talking about house bills.
Every time people find out that Rick and I are married, they're like, what must your dinner table conversations? And then they come up with things like talking about house bills, or you must. And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, like, I would love to be like, nope. I mean, of course, we talk about what all married couples talk about, but we happen to both just be political junkies, and so we spend a lot of time talking about what is happening nationally right now, and what's happening in the state.
Are you guys able to turn it off?
Sometimes. I know it sounds sick. It sounds like we have problems. Usually what we're good at is turning it off at the same time. That, I think, is very important. I think it'd be a problem if one of us was really good at turning it off and the other one wasn't. That could be problematic. But no, like when we go on vacation, we turn it off a little bit.
Did you hear what happened? Is there a lot of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Guilty.
Has there been a moment in your career that challenged what you thought of journalism?
There's a lot right now about conversations about objectivity in journalism, right? And what it means to be objective. And, I don't need to go into all of my, constitutional law and then freedom of speech and, journalism 401 classes. But look, journalism is changing, man. It is changing, and it is changing at a exponential pace and more rapidly than ever before. Anyone is a journalist today. Anyone can be an influencer. Anyone can pick up your phone and record something and put it up online and call themselves a journalist. And one of the things that I think we're grappling with in mainstream media is like this idea of objectivity, that somehow we're still supposed to pretend that we don't come from a certain perspective or point of view. But the fact is, like, everybody has their own story. And I think the conversation has to be had right now about what does it mean to be a human, to be objective. And what I always go back to is the old saying, which is like, one person says it's raining outside, the other person says it's not. And the role of the journalist is like not to just say one person says it's raining, one person says it's not, but to actually go outside yourself and look out the door, look out the window, and then say what you see too. But I think a lot of folks in the industry are trying to figure out what it means to be an objective journalist today. And of course, what it means when people's trust in journalism is at historic lows. Historic lows. Now, trust in a lot of institutions, right? Science, academia, the Supreme Court. I mean, institutions in general are seeing a huge lack of trust right now.
I mean, how do you? I might have an uncle that says it's raining, and your aunt might be firm in believing that it is not raining outside.
Yeah.
How do you, as a journalist, then convince them through your report? How do you gain their trust?
Yeah, Rick and I talk about this all the time. You know, what I've been saying recently is never have I felt like our jobs are more important and less important all at once. And I don't have the fix, Casey. I don't know. I haven't talked to anyone that does. If we had an easy fix to it, we wouldn't be in the pickle that we are right now, where people just don't want to trust facts. Don't even want to trust video that is actual video, what they see. I don't know what the fix is, but I will say that one of the small solutions, I think, again, goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is sitting down in conversations like these, being human with other humans and humans that you may disagree with. Because again, I do really, and maybe this sounds Pollyanna-ish or overly positive, but I think we all actually have a lot more in common. You know, we want good things for our families and for our communities. The majority of people, I really think, do. And so I think it's doing little bits of goodness in the world. But man, there isn't one specific solution to get someone who is dead set on believing something that is wrong to get them to believe. I don't think we figured that out, especially, and with AI and algorithms and misinformation, like it's not going to get easier.
I do want to address the CPB.
Yeah.
I mean, it's officially dissolved.
It is.
You know, been an institution since the 60s.
Yep.
What does that mean for your work and for the future of public media across the country?
So we're talking about the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the CPB, and maybe we should just do like a little setting of the table because I think it's complicated, and it's complicated even for people who work in the system. But so basically, before, when there was money from the federal government for public media, how it worked is the federal government allocated the dollars, and then the dollars went to this non-governmental entity called the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. And then the corporation would distribute dollars to different stations, and it was dependent on different things. So not each station got the same amount of money. That's gone. And so for my station, Michigan Public, the last fiscal year, we received $560,000, about 6% of our budget. So that means over the next 2 fiscal years, it'll be about $1.2 million loss. That's huge. And it's heartbreaking. But man, what I can tell you is the amount of folks who have stepped up and said like, okay, you know what? I give $5 a month right now as a sustaining member. I'm going to make that 15. Or someone who makes a gift right now every year of $500, but is in a position that can give $1,500. They're doing it because I think what they realize is there are fewer and fewer numbers of true, either not-for-profit or not corporate owned or corporate dictated journalistic entities where someone can, what we are seeing right now in journalism that's owned by some corporate media is scary. And, you know, what it means that we have thousands of folks who give a certain amount each month or each year means like we're beholden to them. We're not beholden to one big corporation or organization that can, you know, write us a check and then dictate coverage. We are beholden to thousands of folks in the state of Michigan and around the country and around the world who stream and listen to what they want. So what it means is we've got $1.2 million to make up over the next 2 years. We have an incredible new general manager, Wendy Turner, who thinks about this night and day. In fact, I worry about her brain and how much she thinks about this. But who's realizing that we need to really be thoughtful and thinking about what the future is going to look like. And we're going to be okay. I believe the system is going to be okay. But what I would say to anyone who's listening or watching is like, if you tune into public radio, and it doesn't have to be my station, it can be any station. If you listen, make a gift.
If your listeners, or just Michigan public listeners in general, could remember one piece, like if they could only take away one piece you've ever done,
Oh,
which one is it?
oh gosh. Well, it's not so much one that I did. Well, um, I was the program director at Michigan Public at the time, which meant that I oversaw all the content, right? So it was the newsroom and stateside, my little baby stateside. I'm the co-founder of stateside. It feels like my little baby. Stateside, the host, but at the time, Believed was our podcast about Larry Nassar. And it was watching the women who reported and edited the podcast, and then watching the women, the survivors who were willing to tell their stories, fundamentally changed how I thought about telling people's stories. And I'm so proud of the work that that team did. It changed people. It changed people. I guess that would be it. It's not an easy listen, and it pulls some band-aids off and shows some really hard truths. But I think at its heart, it's like what radio particularly does so well is to just hear that human voice and connect this story with people that you've never met, but suddenly feel like you know them or you want to care for them in this way. It's powerful, this medium.
Tell me more about how it changed you. You said it changed how you tell stories, how you approach stories.
Mm-hmm. That it can't be transactional. I think one of the reasons that journalists have lost some amount of respect, like we have to understand that we are taking something when we are taking someone's story, especially a story that is incredibly personal. Like running after something as horrific as something, happened to someone, and then running to their door and knocking on the door with a camera. Like, I don't think we can do that. Can't do that anymore and have trust. Like, what's the plan? Like, what are we getting out of to see someone on camera crying who doesn't want to be on camera and saying, I don't want to talk right now. Like, that's not what we're here to do. It's one of the things I'm so proud of about public media. Like, we don't do that. But it taught me also about this idea of needing to be very aware of the power that we hold when we are taking someone's very delicate story. So it taught me that. It taught me the importance of that in a way that we had definitely seen. We had just sort of gotten done with some real intense coverage about the Flint water crisis as well, and telling those stories, but just being very aware and thoughtful in the process.
You say just how powerful it is, and how media's role has changed and morphed so rapidly. I mean, over the last few years, but over the, I'm sure the course of your careers. What do you feel responsible for in that change, that you've contributed to the change in the time that you've spent?
Oh, well, I mean, what I feel responsible for now is teaching the next generation and learning from them, right? Like, I think I've gotten to have a really amazing, nearly 20 years. Again, I started when I was 4.
Yeah, right. You said you weren't good at math. That 4-year-old and now 20 years, and you also said like half of your life. So like,
just we don't need to. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm ready to learn again. I'm ready to learn again, maybe is the way to put it. That I've gotten to do so many really, really cool things. Like I said, I got to start stateside. I got to start It's Just Politics, do some really incredible, oversee some teams doing some really incredible work. But I think I'm also ready now for the next generation to also go ahead and start teaching us about how to tell stories. And I think less about telling the stories and more how to distribute the stories, right? Like how to make sure that important, thoughtful, compelling journalism is getting to people on all kind of different devices and ways. because not everybody's going to have a FM radio in their house.
What are they teaching you right now? What are those ways? I mean, what are you seeing?
I think the biggest thing that's been taken away, which I think I deep down knew, but it's hard to get rid of, is like authenticity, man. Just be yourself. This generation, they could smell inauthenticity. And so I think leaning in, and this goes back to like our conversation about sort of anyone being able to be a journalist, but also like objectivity. I'm just thinking a lot these days about what it means to just be a little bit more human in front of the mic, show behind the scenes a little bit more so people feel more trustworthy of how things happen. That's something that I think I'm really learning. This generation's ability to just fully show up as themselves is something that, like, I don't know about you, like we're about the same. Like I wasn't like in middle school, just showing up in high school and college and being like, here's who I am.
I don't know that I know who I was.
Well, there is that. There is that too. But I don't know. I'm learning so much, but I think being authentic is huge. And I would say that for campaigns and politicians, I think it's happening throughout the country. I think, the reason that you see someone like a Mandami in New York is like he's being his, whether you agree with him or not, whether you like his politics or not, you can't say that the campaign he ran Republican. Steve Bannon says game recognizes game about, Donald Trump recognizing Mandami, like that him being himself, and then also the way he was distributing his message on socials, on video, on vertical video, right? All these things is just so smart. And this is what this next generation is teaching us.
So have you not always been authentically Zoe? Like it was like, was there
No.
No,
when you're starting, when you're starting as a broadcaster, you try on 1,000 different hats. You try to be anybody but yourself because, to your point, A, you're young and you don't know who you are yet. Right. But B, no, I was, it's like that, like, okay, now I'm going to try it like this. No, now I'm going to, what if I try? Oh, no, you try all the different things.
When did it click for you that I think I Zoe?
You know what it did? The first time I did an on-air shift and thought, okay, if I mess up, I'm not going to get fired. Like really, there was, I don't know, I can't remember exactly the date, but I remember there was this thing because like I would get so anxious before because I'd be doing live on air, right? And being so worried if I made a mistake or something, like I would get fired, which is not how it works, but I was sure in my head. And so I think the first moment I realized, like, it's okay if you make a mistake, like you can come back and try again tomorrow. I think I started to feel like I could be my authentic self. It was a lot of years ago. And it's one of the things I really try to teach new folks on air. It's so hard, though. It's so hard.
What is your best advice? I mean, is there a trick that you've learned to just find your voice?
To be yourself. And then I learned this from a really great broadcaster, which was if you're in a studio, and you can either think of someone that you know, or some people, even if they're in a studio, put up a photo of someone that they feel really, really comfortable with, who they know have a lot of pride and love. And then he would even go as far as saying, you could start, if it's a recording, you wouldn't do this live, but you may say like, hey, Mom, did you know that, and it makes it makes you sound a little more comfortable. And so I think we've done some work with that with some of like our interns and things like that who are learning how to be on air for the first time.
You instinctually said, hey, Mom.
I did.
Would your mother be the picture?
You know what? I've never actually done the picture myself.
Who would your picture be?
My mom. I would do my mom or Jen White. Jen White was our All Things Considered broadcaster. She's now the host of 1A. She is my pumpkin noodle, and she'll know what that means. And she is someone who, I think for many people, not just for me, she is one of those humans that like you are in her presence and you become a better human. And it's amazing. So I would probably, those two.
If you had the mic for just a final second, which you do, what is something that you want people to know?
That we're all going to be okay. That we're all going to be okay. That I was I know I'm going back to division, right? But where we're recording right now, and it's the national news is really, really hard right now. And maybe it's because I just finished watching the Ken Burns Revolution, 107-part series about the American Revolution. The U.S., I don't think I realized how violent. I mean, I learned about the United States Revolution. I just didn't realize, I think, the amount of violence. Just the amount of violence. And we are a country that was born out of this violence. We are a country that had a civil war. I don't think we're there. I think we've got to figure out a way, the touch grass. Like, we've got to figure out a way to be with each other more, listen to each other more, and not just say that we're going to, but actually do it. It's hard. It is so hard. And I'm trying to practice what I preach, but like putting down the phone, stop scrolling, make a piece of art, bake something, read a book, call a loved one you haven't talked to for a while, call them, write a letter. I don't know. It just feels like we've got to go a little more analog if we're gonna get through this. But I think if we do, and I think if we treat each other how we want to be treated, right, the golden rule, like we're gonna be okay.
Care a little less about whether or not it is or is not raining, and more about the person in front of you.
I think it's a great way of putting it.
She's Zoe Clark. I'm Casey Jones, and this is In Media.